The first member of our class, Coach James Cameron. After playing football for Commerce High School in the mid-1950s, James Cameron continued his education at East Texas State University and became the center for the Lions football team that won 3 Lone Star Conference championships and 2 Tangerine Bowls. He was drafted by the AFL's Los Angeles Chargers, but chose to finish his degree instead. Cameron's first coaching job was as head track coach at Mansfield High School, and although he was only there for the spring semester of 1961, his track team finished higher than any other in MHS history and also produced the school's first state champion. Leaving coaching behind after that semester, Cameron became a salesman for Kraft Foods. After moving to Waco and then to Corsicana, he decided to get back into coaching and became the JV football and basketball coach at Richfield High School in Waco. Cameron's next move was to McKinney High School under head coach Tommy Hudspeth. As defensive coordinator, his 1966 team still holds the state record for holding their opponents scoreless for 10 consecutive games. As head track coach, his teams won the district and regional championship each year. Cameron became head coach at McKinney in 1967 and posted an undefeated regular season, losing in the state semifinals to the eventual state champion. At age 29, Cameron became head coach and athletic director at Howard Payne University. In his 4th and final year, 1971, the Yellow Jackets tied Southwest Texas State for their first and only Lone Star Conference championship in school history and finished the season ranked 3rd nationally. They were invited to their first ever bowl game, the Cowboy Bowl Classic, and defeated Cameron University. Following that season, Coach Cameron was the recipient of the Lone Star Conference Football Coach of the Year Award. Cameron's next stop was for 2 years at Angelo State University, where in his first year, the Rams finished with an 8-2 record, were ranked 6th in the nation, and went to the school's first bowl game. Following 2 years in an investment business with his brothers, Coach Cameron decided to go back into coaching, and he became the head football coach at Rockwall High School. During his 6-year tenure, the Yellow Jackets won or tied for the district title 3 times and were the runner-up twice. In Cameron's final season, his team finished the regular season 10-0 and lost in the state semifinals to eventual state champion Brownwood. In 1982, Cameron became head coach and athletic director at Kilgore, where the Bulldogs had not won a district championship since 1959. In his 7 seasons at the helm, his teams won district championships the final 4 seasons. Cameron finished his head coaching career at Sulphur Springs with 6 winning seasons. Between 1989 and 1994, his Wildcats captured 4 district championships and shared 2 others. His 1991 team went 10-0, and his 1993 and 1994 teams made it to the state quarterfinals. Coach Cameron celebrated his 200th coaching victory in 1994. Coach Cameron married his high school sweetheart, the former June Duncan, and they became parents of 4 children, Deborah, Jeff, Joey, and Jessica. He also had 9 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, with another great-grandchild due on September 1st of this year. On April 1st, 1995, Coach Cameron suffered a heart attack and passed away. He was only 56 years old. On July 10, 1996, Congressman Ralph Hall of Rockwall paid tribute to Coach Cameron on the floor of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. Included in that tribute was a comment by one of Coach Cameron's Sulphur Springs players, Matt Rosamond. Coach was by far the most influential person in my life. I realized deep inside that Coach is very much alive. He is alive, and every player and every person that knew him knew one of the greatest men who had ever lived. Here to accept, in the memory of and on behalf of the family of Coach James Cameron, one of his former players and a state championship coach himself, and athletic administrator, Coach Joey Florence.
Thank you, Craig. On behalf of Coach Cameron and his family, and I'm sorry, I was a little emotional watching that stuff. That'll get you. We would like to thank Coach Rutledge, Coach Joe Martin, members of the Hall of Honor Selection Committee, Board of Directors, and all distinguished guests for this incredible and amazing honor. I am Joey Florence, and it is with great humility and great pride, and not many people can say this, I get to speak on behalf of my high school football coach and my mentor, and it's an amazing deal. His family's here, as you saw, but we certainly want to recognize them. And if I call your name, if you would, please stand, and we'll give an applause at the end. Coach Wooten, I read a quote last night in the hotel room. Coach Wooten said, the great basketball coach, said that the best thing a father can do for his children is to love his mother. And for Jeff and Deborah and Joey and Jessica, I witnessed your father love your mother, and I'd like to start with her, if you don't mind, because she's a great coach's wife, she's a great role model, and she's a great lady. And Miss June Cameron, if you would stand, please. Coach Cameron had 2 daughters and 2 sons, and as it should be, we'll start with his daughters first. Deborah Cook is here, his daughter, and her husband, Ed, their son, Cameron, and wife, Kayla, and their daughter, Kate. They're here. And I met this little girl, and I know that she had Coach Cameron wrapped around her little finger when she was a little girl there in Sulphur Springs. His daughter, Jessica, is here, and her husband, Colin Alexander. Their son, Jeff Cameron, is here, and his wife, Amy, along with their son, Noah. And then the second greatest Joey in the world, I used to tell him when he was little, is here, his son, Joey Cameron, and his beautiful daughter, Maddie. And if we could give them applause. There's one other special friend of the family that I would love to recognize today, and he's certainly deserving. He was, Coach Cameron recruited him out of high school, played for him in college, and then he came, was my defensive coordinator at Rockwall High School, and I got the opportunity to play for him and coach for him. And Chuck King is here today with his wife, Lynette, and they have been very instrumental in getting me and getting everybody get this thing rolling with Coach Cameron. So Chuck King, if you would stand up so everybody can see you. I know you're here. So let's give Coach King an applause. And the family would like to thank all his former players. I know there are many assistant coaches here and many friends that have come a long way to celebrate this day with us, and we would certainly like to say thank you for each of them. As a head football coach for 20 years, I learned the 3 B's of banquet speaking, and I learned it at the Balfour Banquet a long time ago. You need to be specially sincere, be short, and then be seated. And I promise you I'm fixing to do that real quick. But I want to honor Coach's legacy, so it was very hard. So I put together 3 things that I want to share with the people here today in the association. And they are this. Coach Cameron was by far one of the greatest motivators I've ever been a part. I want to talk about his motivation skills. And secondly, Coach Cameron made it fun as a player, but also as a coach, and I want to talk about that. And then finally, I want to talk about his walk with our Savior, Jesus Christ. It was a very profound impact on my life. So, motivation. In the city of, somebody stole my thunder with Bum Phillips, but I drove by the Astrodome yesterday. Anytime I thought of Bum Phillips, I thought of Coach Cameron. There was very similar in a lot of ways, but Bum Phillips was talking about the motivation styles of Paul Bear Bryant one time, and he talked about that Coach Bryant could take his team and beat yours, take your players and beat his team. And I can't say it the way Coach Phillips said it, but that's basically, I always thought of Coach Cameron. Coach Cameron was an unbelievable motivator. He could take anybody, a guy like me, a slow 150-pound defensive back, and think that I could go beat somebody way better than us. And his teams, that's why he won everywhere he went. And there were 2 reasons for that. Coach Cameron loved you, and Coach Cameron believed in you. And you didn't want to let the big man down. He motivated us through that, and I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that was a very important thing. You're not going to find many more better motivators than Coach Cameron. And I want to talk about a little fun because it's the way we coached, and it's the way it should be. We played, we had fun. Coach Cameron was one of the most charismatic individuals I've ever been around. He owned a room. He was larger than life, but he had a smile, and you saw it in those videos that were just unbelievable. But everywhere we went, we were fun. And I want to share one story with you. I can't do like Mr. Moore did. That was unbelievable, by the way. It's a great speech. I'm glad I'm following that one. But in 1989, Coach Cameron showed up. We're going to coaching school, and I'm first-year coach and we're going to go to coaching school. And Coach Cameron pulls up out there in front of the field house, and I don't know what it was, but it was something Elvis would drive. It was a Star Chevy, I don't know, you open the doors, it's a van, and you get in there, it's all red velvet, and here's all I knew at 22 years old. I wanted to be in that van with those guys because it looked like we were going to have a lot of fun in there. And I learned real quick that we were going to eat a lot. All right, we were going to play some unbelievable spade games in that van wherever we were going. And by the time I got back to Sulphur Springs, Texas, I learned more about high school football coaches than I could at any lecture or anything I've done ever since then. You younger coaches, you need to get in them cars and listen to those old guys like us tell you what to do, because that's the best. But Coach Cameron was unbelievably fun to be a part of, and I wanted in that van, and to this day I would get in that van with that guy, and we would drive all over and try to learn from him. And last, I want to talk about his walk with the Lord, and I want to share a personal experience that I have, and I'll try to keep this short. But by the time I got to play for Coach Cameron and the time I got to work for him, he had a special walk with Christ. And at 22 years old, it was good for a young coach like me to be around men like him. You see, I went to Rockwall, Texas, and then down to the University of Texas. When I got down to Austin as a student, I found there was a lot of sinning going on in Austin, and still think they are still there. And it may come as a surprise to some of y'all, but I partook in a lot of that sinning while I was down there in college. But I did get out of Austin with a beautiful wife that I've been married to for almost 30 years. But at a very young age, I was in a dark place in my life. And how lucky I was, and I thank God every day, that I got to work on a staff of men that worked for Christ. That we didn't drink, profanity wasn't acceptable, we weren't going to the bars, you were expected to be with your family. I lived next door to the Methodist Church. It was not uncommon for one of Coach Cameron's men, Chuck King or Tom Young, David Thomas, I can go right down the list, to be knocking on my door on Sunday morning, wanting to know why I didn't get my butt out of bed and can't walk across that parking lot and get to church. I know without a doubt, if I'd gone to the wrong staff, got in the wrong environment, that I would not be the man that I am today. I've almost been married now for 30 years to that woman. And I thank Coach. I thank him for it. I thank him for his walk with Christ, and I thank him for everything that he's done. I'd like to say the last thing I'd like to say, and I'd like to talk to Coach for just a second. Coach, we're still motivating them like he taught us to. We're still trying to have fun like he taught us to. And we're trying to be humble and give God the glory like he taught us to. Thank you very much.